Hey, good morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Oh, wait. Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can.
Happy birthday. Okay. A little bit late.
No, thank you very much.
You had a good day yesterday?
I did. I did. Hi, Fiona. Hi, Doug.
Happy birthday, Adam.
Thank you very much.
Hi there.
Hi, Fiona. Yeah, 43 yesterday. So I got 2 hours at the gym instead of 1. That was one of my birthday treats. And I got and I was given a full body health screening check.
Nice.
It was, I think I need it.
And is everything okay, Adam? Yeah, it's all hanging together.
It's all hanging together so far, yeah. I think so.
Ik zit een uur.
Okay, we've got Bill should be joining us, and then we can get started. So. Bill's just joining us, so we will get started. We're at 13:01. So thanks very much, everybody who has signed in to join us. If you're not a panelist, please do post any questions or make any points in the chat. Everybody's got access to sharing on there. We're going to start with a bit of a summary from me on some aspects of the company that I wanted to update on. So I'm sharing my screen now, and I'm going to show a couple of slides, and I'm also going to show a couple of aspects of the new version of the product before bringing our panelists on to talk about a couple of additional items. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Adam Gordon. I'm co-founder and CEO at Candidate.ID. I've spent 20 years in recruitment, and I've never been more excited about our industry than I am today. So just a quick update in terms of where we are as a business. So we've completed 2019 with the 2 main targets that we set out to achieve complete. So the first of those was maintaining our revenue from 2018, which was £905,000, while increasing our monthly recurring software revenue. So that was achieved. By a massive coincidence, we achieved exactly £905,000 of revenue. So I think it was £700 of a difference between 2018 and 2019. But the big difference is that we more than doubled our monthly recurring software revenue. So the makeup of our revenue is considerably higher value. And a couple of examples of this. So as we can see here, 2018, our total software revenue was just over £100,000, but during 2019, it was getting closer to 250,000. And we finished with a December monthly recurring rate of £30,000. So a considerable swing. And of course, during 2020, we will be intending to accelerate the progression of our monthly recurring software revenues on the basis that our second achievement from 2019, or our second goal from 2019, was achieved, and that was the full completion of the total rebuild of the software product itself. So that began around May time 2018, and it was complete by December. So During January this year, we've had existing customers have started to come on to the new version of the product. And although the existing version achieved great results, we were running it for a lot of our customers. So when I show you the split of services and software revenue, that'll kind of make a bit of sense. For a lot of our customers, we were running Candidate.ID for them almost as a service, because although it was powerful, it was also very, very sophisticated to run. So you needed considerable skills around digital marketing and things like that. You needed HTML skills and things that aren't necessarily natural within a talent acquisition team. As of now, however, we've achieved what we set out to do, which was all of the complicated things, that's all in the background. And following, Apple's sort of, let's try and make it as easy as possible to use. One button does exactly what you expect it's going to. That's the ethos that we've applied to the new build. So I went through a bit of a short demo on the last Open Shareholders meeting. I'm going to specifically show you in a few minutes an example of the kind of campaigns that customers are running, because that's the most exciting aspect of this for me. It's not able to be done in any other recruitment technology that exists in the market today. So just moving on a little bit to the kind of breakdown of the revenue. Again, if we look at 2018, we can see 23% of our revenue was pure software, 29% in 2019. However, the big difference is that a lot of this 23% was managed services, whereas this 29% is pure annual recurring revenue, so a much, much higher value segment. So things are going in the right direction, and by the end of 2020, I expect this to have a lot more orange on these pie charts. As mentioned, the new product is now in the market. We've got existing customers and new customers coming on to use the product. The one product aspect of this session I want to focus in on is really to show you what a more sophisticated campaign looks like. So this is an example for clinical project managers in North Carolina. And we can see here that all of the candidates go in here. So there's about 100,000 candidates in here that this company hasn't spoken to for 6 months or more. The first thing they do is they send an email to all these individuals, and then the decision is in place. Have they opened the email or have they not opened the email? And that's what triggers the automation. So if they haven't opened that email, the candidates all get the same email 2 days later with a different subject heading. That generates about 25% of increased opens. But of course, if they don't open that, then they all get a text message with that same content. That generates about 20% of additional engagement. If from there, they go to the career site, or indeed, if from the subject swap email, they go to the career site, or from that first email, they go to the career site, first thing that happens is, or they open the message, they get 1 point. And then if they go to the career site, they get an additional 5 points. The candidate is marked as warm. If they click on the simple, it's a Tinder style swipe right if you have clinical trials experience. If they do, then they're also moved into the clinical trials campaign. The clinical trials recruiter is informed. If they visit the job description, their engagement points, we call them ID points, they go up by 10. The candidate's moved into hire ready, and the clinical project manager recruiter also receives a notification, so they can get onto this candidate quite quickly. One additional aspect to this campaign this company's made is, if the candidate visits the URL for the hiring manager's LinkedIn profile, they get an additional 2 engagement points. This is week 1 on what is a reasonably simple pipeline automation campaign. It's all adaptive campaigns. So every single click the candidate makes determines what happens next. There is no other recruitment technology in our entire ecosystem that is able to do this. And this is one of the things I'm very, very excited about. One of our customers described it to me last week as a recruitment marketing-led approach to sourcing. And that's something that I'm very, very excited about. So new products now in the market, and it's foot on the gas time now for considerable growth. A couple of other bits of important information. There remains to a considerable amount of M&A within our area of the recruitment technology world. In the last 6 months, Vonk was acquired, ClickIQ was acquired, Clinch was acquired, Smashfly was acquired, and Beamery received a considerable investment from a much bigger company, Workday. So there remains a huge amount of activity happening in our area of the recruitment tech or the HR tech landscape, and larger businesses and private equity firms are very interested in what's happening in the sector. On our 20 for 20 partnership program, which I announced in the last investor meeting, I said that by the end of this year, we will have 20 solid trade partnerships with other organizations that are selling Candidate.ID, some of them on a white label basis. Our partnership with Easy Recruit, who I couldn't mention on the last session, but French recruitment tech company, is now up and running, and Easy Recruit are selling Candidate.ID within the Spain, France, and Italy markets, which are markets that we're not really in just now. So it's really good synergy. We have a partnership with a UK and USA based recruitment process outsourcing company, which is up and running, and they've got 2 customers on Candidate.ID. And we now have 6 kind of deals or conversations which are at the sort of let's get it signed off and get going stage. One I'm very excited about, which is with one of the US's most prominent recruitment marketing agencies. And so I'll be able to hopefully announce a bit more about that at the next meeting. Sales pipeline growth, we can see around 40% of higher financial worth within the latter stages of our sales pipeline on Pipedrive at the sort of business case and technical T's and C's stage compared to this time last year. So that's very good. And alongside the launch of the new Candidate.ID, as many of you know, we've launched a free product called Free Recruitment CRM, and we've had over 100 people so far sign up to make use of this within the first month of the year. We're intending to get to 1,000 users very quickly, and we are very pleased with the fact that around 25% of those individuals who have signed up are within companies of 1,000 people or more, so within the kind of customer market that we have. And of course, we do intend to use this channel to upsell and get those regular users into using the full pipeline product. Next phase of investment is now coming up. So we're at the point where with the new product in the market, we want to accelerate sales growth, and we want to work on a number of technology related items. So we've got 2 things happening. The first thing is we're raising a reasonably small amount of money right now, which is £500,000, which will enable us to achieve some of our short-term goals. But working with our new chair, Doug, who's on the call today and will introduce himself shortly, we're working on a much bigger growth plan, which is going to involve some very exciting options. So over the next couple of months, we're going to be working on which of those 4 main options is the one that we're going to be pursuing with the most vigor. So I hope that's been interesting, and I'm going to move on to my guests now. The first person that's up is Kim. So Kim, hopefully we can hear you. And
I hope so too.
Yes, okay, we can, good. So I'd like you to just give a quick introduction to yourself and give us a quick introduction on how you've been using Candidate.ID and the impacts it's been having on the recruitment work that you've been doing.
Yeah, so I'm Kim. I run a recruitment company in the Netherlands, or basically globally. Most of our clients are outside of the Netherlands, but we actually make tailor-made recruitment and sourcing solutions for our clients. So that can differ quite a lot. And for the past year, we have run Candidate.ID with one of our major clients, where we were asked to map the whole competition of this client in 36 countries. And we rolled out Candidate.ID next to it because the automation works perfectly for that. So we built the database for it. So we mapped over 30,000 people, specifically targeted for these kind of companies, and we send out smaller campaigns. What you said in the beginning already was that the new system is a lot easier to work with. That's what we've noticed. So that's why we were in the lead, because our clients, well, were a little bit surprised by the technicality of the product at that point. But within 2 or 3 months, we had 7 hires just from one campaign, which the acceleration of a process like this can go sky high. I mean, we haven't rolled it out completely, but we will proceed for the longer term for multiple positions. But we are actually enrolling the next phase of Candidate.ID today. And we're actually selling it as a top-on of our product. So we now will enroll with 3 huge corporates, European corporates in the Netherlands. And hopefully we can enroll it throughout Europe and globally, maybe, for these clients. And we expect a lot of response on this. I think it's the new way, and automation in that sense is like really important at the moment. But since this is more like a marketing automation tool, it feels a lot more comfortable with the candidates.
Absolutely. Okay, so question from you, and your kind of background is within the sort of sourcing area. Mm-hmm. I'm interested to know if you feel that it's quite natural for there to be a sort of marketing-led approach to making sourcing easier.
Yeah, well, for me, of course, because I'm a marketeer in the background, so I've worked in advertising and marketing for almost 20 years. So for me, sourcing is part of the recruitment marketing mix. And in that sense, it makes it a lot easier. You have a lot of time, you make up a lot of lost time, which now you do in a lot of sense. But especially with bulk sourcing, which we tend to do a little bit more for our bigger clients, the automation part is key. And a lot of companies are using bots. So this is even a little bit more personal. But next to that, with your sourcing, you're also creating employer branding, because you can send out not only the job openings, but really good content. And that's what I like. And that's where you nurture your potential candidates. It's not like, oh, I have a job for you now. Of course, you want them to be interested at this point. But you're already seeding the seeds for maybe next year or 2 years ahead. And I think that's what makes it a lot easier and more important for sourcing.
So you see it as of equal benefit to sourcers and recruitment marketers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Okay. So as we progress with Kim's business, Boolean Results, we're aiming for this business to become one of our 20 for 20 strategic partners during the year. Yeah. So Kim, thank you very much for joining the session.
No, thank you for the invite.
I'm going to move on to Bill. Bill, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Would you like to give a quick introduction to yourself? And I'd also like to ask you to talk a bit about the talent tipping point, because this is a concept that you're kind of famous for, and something that you wrote a blog or a paper about like some years back, but it's only kind of now, I think, that it's a concept that's becoming probably more relevant.
Accepted, I think, rather than relevant would be the right word. We've got to the right place. But my name is Bill Boorman. My background is I've been in and around recruiting for 35 some years. I currently work with a small number of startups in talent acquisition. So in particular, Candidate.ID as an advisor on a whole mix of things from product to market and how we work. I work with VCs and investors on where they should be wisely putting their money. Speak at a lot of conferences, and I work directly with companies like NASA's group and so on the technologies they should use. So it's a hybrid job that kind of all fits together. Plus, I run a lot of events and talk to a lot of people. But the interesting bit, the talent tipping point, is something I wrote a paper. I think I was looking at the date on the paper. It was 8 years ago when we really started addressing this concept, which was the talent tipping point is a number, hypothetical number, which would be the same for any organisation, which says actually we already know enough people. So if you look at the way in which talent attraction generally works right now, it's on continually filling the funnel. It's a lot of rinse and repeat. You get a role, you advertise that role, some people come in, 1 or 2% of those people are successful, even if you're dealing with are successful getting into the funnel. 98% of people disappear. But at what point do you actually go, you know what, we don't need to attract anyone anymore. What we need to know is who's here. Everyone's in the funnel. They're qualified by some criteria that fits, so we can group those people together. And our job is, who do we have a relationship with? Who's ready to move? Who's responding to us at the moment? How do we market to the people that we know rather than the people that we don't know? So that's the idea of the talent tipping point. Is actually most organisations within their ATS, within their CRM, know enough people. You don't need any more people. And there'll be a natural attrition and fill of that anyway. The other point of it is the challenge for talent acquisition is how do you maintain a relationship with someone forever? Which is a similar conversation to what we're having in e-commerce, that a candidate is applicable at any time rather than just at one transactional point when they're looking for a job. So if you applied for a job with us as a graduate, there's no reason why we shouldn't still be connected with you and talking to you about CFO positions 30 years later, because we've tracked and followed your career and given you relevant content. So that's the talent tipping point for me, is the point where you go, you know what, we actually know the people we need to know, we just don't know anything about them.
So why do you think companies have been slow to understand this, and why do you think companies remain addicted to that rinse and repeat of let's find more people?
Well, it's a very transactional requirement, and this isn't apportioning blame at all to talent acquisition or strategy within talent acquisition. The talent acquisition function is run as supply chain, which is on-demand numbers, people in the right place, and do an absolutely fantastic job of that. So I think we've had a very transactional focus. We've had a very numbers focus. I think we've only seen really in the last 4 or 5 years more consideration about things like employer brand and EVP and connection points. We've only just started to understand that piece of it, which is never mind employer brand, but job brand, people interested in particular disciplines. I think the other thing that's happening now, which is going to become more and more important this year, it's going to become more and more apparent, is the coming together of learning and development and talent acquisition as a single function. I think we're going to see in learning content becomes employer brand. It is people who are interested, having enough stuff. I think what we've done, because it's had a very transactional focus, historically what we've done is send you jobs that are interesting, and most of the time you've gone, I'm not really interested in a job. We haven't thought about a content-led approach about what might build a relationship over things like learning content.
So we've not really been able to nurture our talent pipelines until today. Would that be fair?
Whether we haven't been able to, or whether we haven't, I think is two different questions. I think we haven't been able to. We haven't had dedicated technology to do that.
Yeah.
We have more dedicated technology, but we have been able to do that to some extent if we chose to. We're very focused on the supply chain. There is 40 requirements this month. How do I get 40 people, of which 10 need to be in Spain, 10 need to be in Germany, blah, blah, blah. Looking at my metrics and say, well, that means I need 50 people at the top of each funnel. Go. let's go and get these 50 people. It's only now that we're starting to say, you know what, two things. One is very, as I think niches have got narrower, we've run out of people, actually. There's no more people for us to attract us new. Or the number that we've got attracted new is very small. Therefore, we've now got to look at how do we work the same people, or being transactional with them. And I think the other point from a transactional point of view is we've reached a point of understanding how relationships and relationship scoring might be more important than transactional scoring.
So in that case, that leads me on to very well to my next question, which is, do you believe in that case that Candidate.ID allows employers some additional benefits when it comes to trying to achieve what you think they should be doing?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is what we've built. You know, we've had enough product meetings and enough conversations and enough arguments and arm wrestling to say, where do we go with this? I think we're built around this whole principle of the talent tipping point, which is you either have enough people, or you can do what Kim has done, which is say we can identify enough people and start to build relationships with them. So I think that's exactly where we are as a technology. And I think if you've got a niche and you've got a lot of those connections, you know, I worked with a technology, not with actually a broadcaster, but the technology team of that. They had 1 million CVs of developers in their ATS. You don't need any more.
No, you definitely don't. And this is a
relationship with those people, and an understanding that those people will change their status, and only if you have a relationship will they give you. Only if you're giving them some value will they give you the updates.
Yeah, and this is where for me, you know, in a parallel experience for me, the idea for Candidate.ID originated from a meeting I had with a pharmaceutical company who told me they had 10 million people on their applicant tracking system globally.
Yeah, what do you want any more for? Why are you spending any money on job boards and sourcing and doing it? Why do you want any more? Why don't you actually do something with these 10 million people?
Yeah, and 70% of the people applying to adverts and 70% of the people that they were sourcing on LinkedIn were already on the applicant tracking system. So I thought, this is crazy, and we have to do something to nurture the existing database.
Yeah, I mean, if I give you an idea, where I started thinking about this, one of the major employers I was working with, 60% of their agency hires were already in their ATS.
Yeah, well,
oh my
yes,
God.
absolutely.
And these weren't cheap people. This is people whom you would have been paying 15 to 20 grand fee for.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you multiply it by those numbers, as I say, you already knew these people and you were paying a significant fee for these people. Kind of crazy.
Yeah. Great. Bill, thanks so much for talking to us a bit more about the talent tipping point. We're going to move on to Fiona. So Fiona, welcome to the session. I described you when we were telling people to come and join this. I described you as HR Director of the Year every year from our perspective. So could you just give us a bit of an introduction? And there's one thing I want to focus on a little bit, which is the subject of diversity, because it's a big subject right now within the HR, within the employment world. And it's something that our customers are starting to use Candidate.ID for to try and address. So if you could just give your introduction to yourself and then just explain from the HR director perspective why diversity is such an important subject just now.
Yep. So thanks so much for asking me along, Adam. So I'm an HR generalist. I have been an HR director and I now run my own business, and we offer a recruitment consultancy service. I'm also a shareholder of Candidate.ID. So in terms of diversity, I think it's fair to say every business needs a good mix of people. That's the skills, the background, gender, ethnicity, age. You know, it's pretty clear we need a mixture of people, and that's really reflective in all businesses, and particularly reflective of the area in which that business works in. So it might be sector driven, or it might be down to the location. So you can't really force it. And it's really easy, I think, to have line managers who you're given that responsibility of hiring to have that halo effect. So they're liking someone in their own image and hiring in their own image, and that really can have a very negative impact on businesses. So you're seeing more investment now in things like unconscious bias training. and generally a much bigger awareness, as you said earlier, in diversity generally. And I think there is a real risk to businesses not taking it seriously, not just from a legislative perspective, but also looking at candidates who potentially aren't necessarily in the market, but are persuaded by the business reputation and how they market themselves in terms of diversity, particularly the younger age group joining the recruitment and labour market. So I think it's really important that businesses are tracking their data and that they're taking really proactive steps to engage out there in the market with candidates and prospective candidates. But equally, I do warn that you know, it's really important that the best person should always get the job. I'm not a fan of quotas at all. So I'm kind of keen to ask you a question, Adam, and that, you know, I'm curious to know how you feel Candidate.ID could really help businesses with this sort of big topic of diversity.
Okay, so we've got, we've identified now, I think, 10 separate use cases for Candidate.ID, and we've got customers now who are getting up to sort of 5, 6. I don't think we've got anybody that's got 10 different use cases, but diversity is one that we have 3 or 4 customers using Candidate.ID for. Now, the reasonably easy way to do this is to roll out the red carpet to specifically female talent, people that you're interested in hiring. So if you look at tech disciplines like software or engineering or science and things like that, there is, of course, less available female talent than there is in some of the more soft-skilled areas like sales and marketing and HR and those kinds of areas. So we've got a number of customers using Candidate.ID to, as I say, roll out the red carpet to potential female hires. Now, what I mean by that is, in the example of the sort of campaign, the first week of a campaign for clinical project managers, which I showed on the screen earlier on, that's a quite lightweight sort of campaign when it comes to the different automated options in there, but it's still much better than what you can do today, which is send the same thing to absolutely everybody if you're using, for example, a CRM. Now, if you want to really roll out the red carpet to a certain group of people, what you've got to do is provide more options. So in every place where there's a decision in the nurture campaign, you might give them 4 or 5 different options. And of course, you are going to need to create or curate and bring together more different types of content for the different individuals. So the example of that would be, if you're nurturing a general pipeline, you might have a 30-second video from the hiring manager talking about how they inspire their team, something like that. When you're looking to roll out the red carpet to a certain group, you might have 5, 6, 7 different 30-second videos according to the different areas that that individual might be interested in. So a female software engineer may, for example, be interested in getting to meet through a video, for example, a female software engineer that currently works in the business. So you want to give them those different options. So it's all about giving them different options when it comes to a nurture experience. Now, from the recruiter, so that's about the candidate experience and really just making it more personalized for those groups you want to roll the red carpet out to. From the recruiter's perspective, and this really makes me happy, because I think we now know that men tend to apply to jobs that they might have a 60% match for, whereas women need to have a much higher, on average, a much higher match with the job description before they actually apply to that job. It might be somewhere closer to 80%. So we know that women are more reluctant to apply to jobs they might have a chance in. So from the recruiter's perspective, because of the tracking and the scoring within Candidate.ID, because of the insights that it's generating, it's able to tell recruiters, this person was at the job description, and about once every couple of weeks at the moment, we're getting a recruiter contacting us to say, I contacted this person. The reason she didn't apply was because she wasn't sure she had quite enough experience for the job. But because I was able to kind of understand the right time to reach out to her and then talk through her experience, we determined together that she was a good match for the job, and she's applied for the job, and it looks like she's going to get the job. So, you know, there's a couple of different aspects to this around how we're helping businesses to be able to create a more sophisticated approach to diversity. I agree with you completely, Fiona. The best person for the job should get the job. But when you've got the best people at the shortlist stage, which may include, for example, a lot more females who otherwise might not have applied, then that's going some way towards addressing this issue. And I'm hoping that over time, we're going to be able to see on an organizational basis, we're going to be able to see the results that Candidate.ID has helped talent acquisition teams to be able to achieve. And of course, external recruitment businesses. Does that answer the question? And
yep, no, it does. And I think as well about that messaging, you know, at the end of the day, you're messaging and engaging with people, whether they're in the market or not. And I think that's the added value of Candidate.ID, because you've got that opportunity to push out messages about the fact you are a diverse employer. So I think there's a lot of ways of using Candidate.ID to maximise diversity.
Mm. Great. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Fiona, for joining us. I'm going to move on to Doug now. Doug, we don't have a special sort of subject specifically to talk to you about, but I hope that you'd give us an introduction to yourself and your background, your interest in HR tech, or tech, and specifically in HR tech, and maybe just give us a kind of couple of an indication on why coming and joining us at Candidate.ID was interesting. And in fact, you came and joined us as a shareholder back around 6 months ago when we were on Crowdcube. So it's interesting the way that has generated additional benefits for us we weren't necessarily expecting to achieve. So Doug, welcome, and yeah, please give us a bit of background.
Thanks very much, Adam. Absolutely delighted to be joining, or to have joined Candidate.ID. I'm very excited about this business, actually. Just my own background quickly, you can probably tell from my accent, I'm originally from Glasgow, which is not a bad place to come from in this context. However, I've been working down in London for the last 30 or so years. Originally finance, chartered accountant, still am, but I've graduated, if you like, to running businesses in the last 20, 30 years in the travel industry, but most recently, the last 15 years or so in the HCM tech space, so human capital management technology of all sorts. I've been the managing director of Ceridian for 11 years, and then more recently, the company that bought part of the UK business, SD Works, for another couple of years. Since then, I've basically just been more and more fascinated by the dynamism of the sector. The SaaS, cloud, HR tech sector is really hot. There's some great, very interesting individuals and companies within that space. One of them undoubtedly is this one. Yes, I came across Candidate.ID really formally for the first time as I was engaged in a Crowdcube exercise some months ago. But really the thing that struck me was some of the high level, very experienced support behind Candidate.ID, the way Adam, Scott and the team positioned Candidate.ID on Crowdcube. Many of us will have come to the company from that route. I think their campaign was outstanding, and it tends to mark them out as being different from your average Crowdcube fundraiser. And I think you have to have courage in the first place to even attempt that. So to stand out from that fairly high select group is something. I think behind that, then you see a business that's got some very experienced and clever, talented, full of energy leaders. The space is so hot because the task that we have is with populating our businesses with the best people we possibly can find with the greatest potential. It's never been tougher. Just close to full employment, specialist skills in high demand. You know, to be able to laser focus your attention on the right people and hold on to that interest. Remember what you've picked up the first time and track people's progress in terms of relationship with your business. It's just a terrific potential to grow this business really, really significantly. So when I met Adam, Scott, Jane, the others up in Glasgow, confirmed my instinct, if you like. Everything I'm listening to, even today's call, all the feedback I've heard thus far is so encouraging. I think we're going to be very customer-led. I think, as Adam said, 10 user cases identified. No customers got to all of those yet, but there'll be more. And I think, in my eyes, the reputation of Candidate.ID will grow still further and faster as the top end of the recruitment market in terms of skill and expertise talks more and more about this business, and your reputation is likely to grow significantly. A very intelligent recruitment manager, leader, is going to get the best out of this product, and I think we can learn from those individuals to make sure that the next stage of development is still stronger. I love the software. I think the new edition just brought out that, having come from a software SaaS world, that's where I've inhabited for the last 15 years. It doesn't just look great. The functionality is terrific. It's easy to use. It's intuitive. That's going to mark it out as potentially a fast seller. It's easy to demo. It's easy to explain, and therefore it should be, the theory goes, easy to say yes to. So lots of good reasons, Adam, why I'm excited to be with you, and hopefully I can bring some of my experience to the board of the business as we look at the options forward. And as you can tell, I'll always be pushing for a very positive stroke aggressive approach to our future together.
Great, thanks. So I didn't write any of that for Doug, but I should say that his positivity is one of the main reasons that we wanted to bring him on board. And when Scott interviewed Doug for a short video as part of our crowdfunding last year, Scott said to me, he sent me a message. I was on holiday, I think, at the time. He sent me a message and said, yeah, we need to keep close to Doug because he could be a great chair for our business. The fact that Doug comes from a HR tech background, and the fact that he's originally from Glasgow, I've said we've got various different strands of shared DNA, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to bring him on board. So Doug's done a lot of M&A in his career, and in the last 10, 15 years especially. And so a lot of investment raising and things like that as well. And very much looking forward to our first board meeting of the year on the 3rd of February. And over the next couple of months, we're going to be working on what is the big ambitious growth plan. And there's 3 or 4 potential routes that we're going to take, and we're going to get to the bottom of the next couple of months of what is the kind of up-to-date 2020 strategy for growth. Delighted to have you on board. Now we've got a question from Evelyn, which is how are revenue and profit in comparison with the objectives? So revenue is from 2019 is absolutely in line with what we were expecting, which is revenue maintained at the 2018 rate, but with a 100% increase in monthly recurring software revenues, which is really the high value revenue that we're looking to achieve. 2020 is the transformational year. This is where we're going to be looking to get that revenue from sort of 30% of total to over 70% of total by the end of this year. So this is a very, very important and exciting year. In terms of profit, profit is like kind of minus £50,000 per month, roughly, something like that. And that's basically also in line with what we're expecting. So we're not expecting any profit. If we grow at the rate that we are growing today, based on the existing plan, we do get to profit in around February 2021, but that's not the objective. And the objective is really around value growth for this business. And so that's going to really depend on what we decide as being the really ambitious growth plan from probably the end of Q1 onwards. So I hope that's answered that question. So, okay, I'm going to draw this to a close, but thanks very much everybody for coming in and joining. Kim, Bill, Fiona, and Doug. Very blessed to have people like you involved with the business, and there's a lot more as well. So we have over 550 people who are shareholders in this organization, and a lot of those are people that are in the HR and recruitment space. So we enjoy working with those people, and we know we can pick up the phone to you when we need to. So as I say, thank you very much for everybody for coming and joining. And we'll do our next session in approximately 8 weeks' time. Until then, feel free to contact me. Easiest way to remember my email address, adam@candidate.id. Yep, hopefully talk to you all again sometime very soon. So thanks very much for your time. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.